Princess Zara of the Viridian Empire stood at the observation deck of her father's flagship, watching the primitive blue planet below with disgust. Earth, a backwater world inhabited by creatures so simple they still used chemical propulsion to reach their own moon. Yet here she was, being forced into a political marriage with one of these humans. The marriage had been her father's idea, a desperate attempt to secure Earth's rare mineral deposits without the cost of a full invasion. The Viridian Empire needed those resources, and apparently marrying his daughter to some human leader was cheaper than deploying the fleet. Zara clenched her four-fingered hands, her violet skin darkening with anger. "Your Highness," came a voice behind her. Admiral Keth, her father's military advisor, approached with his usual respectful bow. "The human delegation has arrived. Emperor Valdris requests your presence in the ceremonial hall." Zara sighed, her breathing apparatus making a soft hissing sound. "Very well, let us meet this primitive creature I am to call husband." She smoothed down her elaborate ceremonial robes, the fabric shimmering with embedded crystals that displayed her royal status. The ceremonial hall buzzed with activity. Dozens of Viridian nobles had gathered to witness this historic moment, their tall, elegant forms creating a sea of violet and blue skin tones. At the center of the room stood Emperor Valdris, Zara's father, his imposing 8-foot frame draped in golden robes that marked his supreme authority. Beside him stood the human delegation. Zara had to suppress a laugh when she saw them. They were so small, barely reaching 6 feet in height, with their pale pink skin and strange hair covering their heads. They wore what appeared to be their finest garments, but compared to Viridian fashion, they looked like children playing dress-up. And then she saw him. Her future husband. The man stepped forward with confidence that surprised her. He was average in height for a human, with dark hair and brown eyes that seemed to take in everything around him. His name, she had been told, was Marcus Chun, and he served as some sort of representative for Earth's unified government. He wore a simple black suit with minimal decoration, which only emphasized how primitive human fashion truly was. "Your Imperial Majesty," Marcus said, performing what Zara assumed was a human bow. His pronunciation of their language was adequate, though heavily accented. "I am honored to represent Earth in this historic alliance." Emperor Valdris nodded regally. "Welcome, human. You stand before the might of the Viridian Empire. Today you will be joined with my daughter, Princess Zara, cementing the bond between our peoples." His voice carried the weight of absolute authority, and several humans in the delegation shifted nervously. Marcus, however, remained calm. He turned to face Zara, and she was surprised to find his gaze steady and unafraid. Most beings trembled in the presence of Viridian royalty, yet this human looked at her as if she were simply another person. "Your Highness," he said, offering another bow. "I hope this union will bring prosperity to both our worlds." Zara studied him carefully. His words were diplomatic, perfectly chosen, but there was something in his eyes that intrigued her. Most humans she had observed through surveillance appeared nervous and overwhelmed when dealing with advanced technology. This one seemed different, still primitive, of course, but perhaps not as helplessly simple as the others. The ceremony proceeded according to Viridian tradition. Sacred crystals were activated, creating a light show that made several humans gasp in wonder. Ancient words were spoken in the old tongue, binding the two in a union that would last until death. Marcus followed the rituals as instructed. Though Zara noticed, he seemed more interested in observing the technology behind the ceremony than in the ceremony itself. When it came time to exchange the traditional gifts, Emperor Valdris presented Marcus with a small crystal communicator, a device that would allow him to contact the Viridian fleet if needed. In return, Marcus offered a simple wooden box. "This contains something precious from Earth," he explained. "Seeds from our oldest trees and soil from every continent. We believe that life should be shared and nurtured." Zara almost rolled her eyes. How quaint. The humans were offering dirt and plant matter while receiving technology that could revolutionize their world. It perfectly illustrated the vast gap between their civilizations. After the ceremony, Zara found herself alone with her new husband in the chambers that had been prepared for them. The rooms were designed to accommodate both Viridian and human needs, with atmospheric controls and furniture suitable for both species. Marcus stood by the large viewing window, looking out at the stars. "It's beautiful out here," he said quietly. "I've never seen space from this perspective before." "You have never traveled beyond your planet's atmosphere?" Zara asked, though she already knew the answer. She settled into a chair designed for her taller frame, studying this strange creature she was now bound to. "Not personally, no," Marcus replied. "Our space program is still in its early stages. We have colonies on our moon and Mars, but nothing like this." He gestured around the magnificently appointed chamber. "Indeed, your people have barely learned to leave their world, while we have conquered 1,000 star systems." Zara made no effort to hide her condescension. "Tell me, human, what do you think you can offer the Viridian Empire?" "Your world has resources, yes, but beyond that." Marcus turned from the window, and again she was struck by the steadiness of his gaze. "Perhaps more than you might expect, Your Highness. Every species has something unique to contribute. Sometimes the most valuable things are not the most obvious ones." There was something in his tone that gave Zara pause. For a moment she thought she detected a hint of something deeper behind his words. But then he smiled in what appeared to be a simple, friendly manner, and she dismissed the notion. "We shall see," she said. "For now, I suggest you rest. Tomorrow, I will show you more of our ship. Perhaps you can learn something that might benefit your primitive world." Marcus nodded agreeably. "I would appreciate that very much. Thank you, Your Highness." As Zara prepared for sleep in her private chamber, she reflected on the day's events. The marriage was a political necessity, nothing more. The human seemed pleasant enough, if simple, and at least he showed proper respect for Viridian superiority. Perhaps this arrangement would not be as unbearable as she had feared. Outside, Marcus stood again at the viewing window, but now his expression was entirely different. The friendly, somewhat awed demeanor had vanished, replaced by something far more calculating. His eyes moved systematically across the star field, taking in details that would have meant nothing to most humans but meant everything to someone who understood exactly what he was seeing. He had work to do. The next morning, Zara kept her promise to show Marcus around the flagship. She had decided this would be an excellent opportunity to demonstrate the vast superiority of Viridian technology. Perhaps inspiring some proper awe in her simple human husband, they began in the engine room, where massive crystalline cores hummed with energy that could propel the ship faster than light itself. The engineering crew, tall Viridians with specialized breathing apparatus for working in the high-energy environment, bowed respectfully as their princes passed. These quantum crystalline matrices generate enough power to move a ship of this size across the galaxy in mere days, Zara explained, gesturing proudly at the glowing cores. "Your human ships, I am told, would take thousands of years to make the same journey." Marcus nodded, walking slowly around the massive engines. His eyes seemed to take in every detail, and Zara noticed he asked surprisingly specific questions about power output and energy efficiency. For a primitive human, he certainly seemed curious about technical matters. "The crystalline structure is fascinating," Marcus said, examining the control panels. "How do you maintain stability in the quantum matrix during dimensional transitions?" Zara paused. That was not the sort of question she had expected. It showed an understanding of advanced physics that seemed unusual for someone from a world that had barely mastered spaceflight. Perhaps humans were slightly more advanced than intelligence reports had suggested. "The stability crystals are aligned using gravitational field manipulation," she replied, watching his reaction carefully. "Though I doubt your people have developed such technology." "No, we haven't," Marcus agreed easily. "We're still working with more conventional propulsion methods. This is incredible to see in person." They moved on to the weapon systems, where Zara truly expected to see some proper fear and respect. The flagship's armaments could reduce a planet to cosmic dust in minutes. Surely even a simple human would understand the implications. Commander Vex, the ship's weapons officer, demonstrated the targeting systems for them. Holographic displays showed the devastating power at their disposal, while energy readings climbed to levels that could shatter moons. A single blast from our primary array has the destructive force of your planet's largest nuclear weapons, Zara explained, noting with satisfaction how Marcus's expression grew more serious. One ship like this could pacify your entire world. I can see that, Marcus replied quietly. He studied the weapon displays with the same careful attention he had given the engines. The energy-focusing mechanisms must be incredibly precise to achieve that level of destructive coherence. Again, Zara found his comment oddly sophisticated. Most beings, when faced with such overwhelming firepower, either cowered in terror or made simple observations about the pretty lights. Marcus seemed to be analyzing the underlying technology. Their tour continued through the communications array, where messages traveled instantly across vast distances through quantum entanglement networks. Marcus asked about signal encryption and data compression methods. In the medical bay, he inquired about cellular regeneration techniques and life support systems for different species. With each section they visited, Zara found herself increasingly puzzled. This human asked questions that suggested a deeper understanding of advanced science than should have been possible. Yet, whenever she looked at him directly, he displayed the same mild, curious expression of someone seeing wonders beyond his comprehension. During lunch in the officers' dining hall, Zara decided to test her growing suspicions. Marcus, she said, using his first name for the first time, your questions today have been quite detailed for someone from a world with such limited technology. Have you studied advanced physics? Marcus smiled in that same friendly way. I've always been curious about how things work. Back on Earth, I studied engineering before moving into government service. Old habits, I suppose. When you see something amazing, you want to understand it. His explanation seemed reasonable, but something nagged at Zara. She had met engineers before, from various worlds the Empire had conquered. There was usually a certain pattern to their questions, a building of understanding from basic principles. Marcus's questions seemed to skip several steps, as if he already understood the fundamentals and was exploring more complex implications. What sort of engineering? She asked. Systems integration, mostly. How different technologies work together to accomplish complex tasks. Marcus took a sip of the human-compatible beverage that had been prepared for him. Nothing as advanced as what you have here, obviously. We're still figuring out basic fusion power while you've mastered quantum crystalline matrices. That afternoon, Zara arranged for Marcus to meet with some of the ship's junior officers, thinking it might be amusing to watch them interact with a primitive human. The gathering took place in one of the recreational areas, where off-duty personnel often played strategy games or discussed current events. Lieutenant Jorak, a young engineering officer, immediately took an interest in Marcus's questions about human technology. Soon they were deep in conversation about propulsion systems, with Jorak explaining some of the basic principles behind Viridian space travel. Zara listened from across the room, expecting to hear Marcus struggling with concepts far beyond his understanding. Instead, she heard him asking follow-up questions that demonstrated not just comprehension, but insight into potential improvements and alternative approaches. Your chemical rockets are inefficient. Yes, Jorak was saying, but they show good understanding of basic reaction principles. Have you considered ion drive systems? We've experimented with them, Marcus replied. The specific impulse is much better, but the thrust-to-weight ratio creates problems for planetary launches. We've been looking at hybrid systems that use chemical boost phases and ion cruise phases, but the complexity of the switching mechanisms. He trailed off, as if realizing he might be revealing too much. Zara moved closer, pretending to examine a decorative crystal while listening to their conversation. Marcus was describing technological concepts that intelligence reports insisted humans had not yet developed. Either those reports were wrong, or her husband was not as simple as he appeared. You humans might be more advanced than we thought? Jorak laughed. Those are sophisticated concepts. Perhaps in a few centuries you will develop something similar to our systems. Perhaps, Marcus agreed, but Zara caught something in his tone. It was subtle, almost hidden, but for just a moment he had sounded amused, as if Jorik had said something unintentionally funny. That evening, Zara found herself pacing in her private chambers, trying to piece together the growing puzzle. Marcus's behavior during the day had been inconsistent with what she knew about human capabilities. His questions were too advanced, his understanding too deep, his comfort level with alien technology too high. She activated her personal communication device and sent a priority message to her father's intelligence chief. She needed updated reports on human technological capabilities, and she needed them immediately. While waiting for a response, she decided to conduct her own test. She would observe Marcus when he thought he was unobserved, to see if his behavior changed when he believed no one was watching. The ship's internal monitoring systems allowed her to discreetly observe the guest quarters where Marcus was staying. What she saw made her breathing apparatus flutter with surprise. Marcus was not sleeping, as she had expected. Instead, he was standing at the room's control panel, his fingers moving over the interface with practiced ease. He was accessing ship systems that should have been completely incomprehensible to a human, navigating through technical databases and star charts with the confidence of someone who knew exactly what he was looking for. As Zara watched, Marcus pulled up detailed schematics of the ship's quantum communication array. He studied them intently, occasionally making what appeared to be mental notes. Then he accessed the ship's library and began reading technical manuals, written in advanced mathematical notation, that even some Viridians found challenging. This was not the behavior of a primitive human overwhelmed by advanced technology. This was someone conducting systematic intelligence gathering with the skill of a trained operative. Zara's hands trembled slightly as she realized the implications. Either humans were far more advanced than anyone in the Viridian Empire suspected, or her simple, friendly husband was not what he appeared to be. And if the latter was true, then this marriage might be something very different from the political arrangement she had assumed outside her chambers. The stars continued their ancient dance, unaware that a princess of the mighty Viridian Empire had just discovered that she might not be the most dangerous person in her own marriage. The intelligence report arrived 3 hours later, and what Zara read made her question everything she thought she knew about Earth and its inhabitants. The updated data painted a picture very different from the primitive world her father had described according to the latest reconnaissance. Humans had indeed achieved faster-than-light communication through quantum entanglement, though they were keeping this technology carefully hidden. They had established mining operations in multiple star systems, not just their own solar system as previously reported. Most disturbing of all, they had been observed testing weapons that used principles the Viridian Empire had thought only they possessed. Zara set down the datapad with shaking hands. If this information was accurate, then the marriage was not the Empire taking advantage of a primitive species. It was two advanced civilizations cautiously testing each other's capabilities through diplomatic channels. And Marcus was likely not the simple government representative he pretended to be. She made a decision that would have shocked her father. Instead of reporting her suspicions immediately, she would conduct her own investigation. If her husband was playing a game, then she would play along until she understood the rules. The next morning, she approached Marcus with a carefully crafted plan. "Today, I thought you might enjoy seeing our navigation systems," she said over breakfast. "You seemed so interested in technical matters yesterday." Marcus looked up from his meal, that same friendly expression on his face. "I'd be honored, Your Highness. Navigation must be incredibly complex when you're dealing with interstellar distances." "Perfect." The navigation center contains some of the ship's most sensitive systems. If Marcus was what she suspected, he would not be able to resist examining them more closely. And if he truly was innocent, then her suspicions would be proven wrong. They made their way to the navigation deck, where massive holographic displays showed the ship's position relative to nearby star systems. Charts and calculations filled the air around them, creating a three-dimensional map of local space that was both beautiful and incredibly complex. "Commander Yareth," The chief navigator greeted them with the usual formal respect due to royalty. Your Highness, it is an honor to show you our navigation systems. And you, human, are perhaps the first of your species to see these technologies. It's overwhelming, Marcus replied, looking around with apparent wonder. How do you calculate courses across such vast distances? Yareth began explaining the basic principles of interstellar navigation, while Zara watched Marcus's reactions carefully. On the surface, he appeared appropriately impressed and confused by the advanced mathematics involved. But she noticed subtle signs that suggested deeper understanding. The way his eyes tracked the calculations, how his head tilted when complex equations were displayed as if he was working through them mentally, the barely perceptible nod when a particularly elegant solution was demonstrated. The quantum positioning matrices are the key, Yareth was saying, gesturing at a complex array of crystalline computing elements. They allow us to maintain accurate position data even during faster-than-light travel, when normal reference points become meaningless. Fascinating, Marcus said. How do you account for relativistic effects during the transition phases? Zara's breathing apparatus nearly stopped. That was not a question a primitive human should be able to ask. It required understanding of advanced physics that Earth supposedly had not developed. Yareth looked surprised as well. That is a very sophisticated question. Most beings from less advanced worlds do not grasp the complexities of relativistic mechanics. You have studied these concepts? Marcus appeared to realize his mistake. His expression became more apologetic, more befitting someone who had accidentally asked something beyond his understanding. I'm sorry, I probably used the wrong terms, he said. On Earth, we've studied Einstein's theories of relativity, but only at a basic level. I probably misunderstood what you were describing. His recovery was smooth, almost perfect. But Zara had seen that moment of slip when his true knowledge had shown through his careful disguise. Einstein? Yareth asked. One of your human scientists? Yes, he worked on theories about time and space several centuries ago. Very primitive compared to what you've achieved, I'm sure? Perhaps not as primitive as you think, Yareth said thoughtfully. The foundations of our navigation systems are based on similar mathematical principles. Your species may be more capable than we initially assessed. They continued the tour, with Marcus asking more carefully basic questions and Yareth providing detailed explanations. But now Zara was watching both of them with new understanding. Yareth, like most Viridians, had assumed humans were primitive based on official intelligence reports. Marcus's accidentally sophisticated question had surprised him, but he was interpreting it as evidence that humans were more advanced than expected. Not that this particular human was pretending to be less knowledgeable than he actually was during a break in the tour. While Yareth was called away to handle a routine navigation update, Zara found herself alone with Marcus near one of the quantum positioning displays. You seem to be enjoying this, she said casually. It's incredible, Marcus replied, still maintaining his role as an impressed primitive. I never imagined such technology was possible. Zara decided to take a small risk. You know, Marcus, I've been thinking about our conversation yesterday. Your questions about the weapon systems were quite insightful. Almost as if you understood the underlying principles. She watched his face carefully. For just a fraction of a second, she saw something flicker in his eyes, calculation, assessment, the look of someone deciding how to respond to a potential threat. Then, the friendly expression returned. I've always been curious about how things work, he said. Sometimes I ask questions that are probably too advanced for my understanding. I hope I haven't embarrassed myself. Not at all, Zara replied. Curiosity is a valuable trait. I imagine it serves you well in your government work on Earth. It does, Marcus agreed. Though most of my work involves much more mundane matters than quantum physics and interstellar navigation. What sort of work, exactly? Again, that barely perceptible pause before he answered. Resource allocation and logistics. Making sure supplies and materials get where they need to go. Not very exciting, but necessary for keeping society functioning. It was a clever answer. Vague enough to avoid specifics, but reasonable enough to explain his presence in a diplomatic mission. Yet Zara noticed he had not actually answered her question. Resource allocation and logistics could cover a wide range of activities, including military operations and intelligence work. When Yurith returned, they completed the tour of the navigation systems. Marcus continued to play his role perfectly, asking appropriately simple questions and expressing suitable amazement at the technologies being demonstrated. To anyone not looking for deception, he would have appeared exactly as he claimed to be, but Zara was now certain she was looking at deception. The question was what to do about it. That evening, she made another decision that would have horrified her father. Instead of immediately exposing Marcus as a spy or agent of some kind, she would continue to play along with his charade while conducting her own investigation. Two could play this game of hidden identities and concealed capabilities. If her husband wanted to pretend to be a simple human, then she would pretend to be a simple princess who believed his act completely. Meanwhile, she would use her access to Imperial intelligence networks to find out exactly who Marcus Chun really was and what he was actually doing on her father's flagship. As she prepared her carefully worded intelligence requests, Zara found herself feeling something she had never experienced before. For the first time in her sheltered royal life, she was facing a genuine intellectual challenge. Her marriage, rather than being the boring political arrangement she had dreaded, was turning into a complex game of strategy and deception. She was surprised to discover that she was actually looking forward to the next day's interactions with her mysterious husband. If he wanted to play games with her, then she would show him that a Viridian princess could be just as cunning as any human spy. The game had begun, and Zara intended to win. 3 days into her private investigation, Zara's intelligence contacts provided information that shattered her understanding of the situation entirely. Marcus Chun existed in human records exactly as he claimed. He was indeed a government representative, involved in resource allocation and logistics. His background was thoroughly documented, his credentials legitimate, his identity verified through multiple independent sources. The problem was that the same intelligence network had also identified 17 other Marcus Chuns on Earth, all with similar backgrounds, all involved in government work, and all bearing enough physical resemblance to be the same person. Either humanity had developed cloning technology far beyond what the Viridian Empire possessed, or they had created the most sophisticated identity fabrication system ever encountered. The real Marcus Chun could be any one of these individuals, all of them, or possibly none of them. Zara stared at the data displays in her private study, feeling a mix of admiration and frustration. Whoever had planned this deception had anticipated Imperial intelligence methods with disturbing accuracy. They had not simply created a false identity. They had created a web of interconnected false identities that would require extensive investigation to unravel. Her husband was definitely not what he appeared to be, but finding out what he actually was would be far more challenging than she had expected. Soft chime indicated someone requesting entry to her chambers. Zara quickly deactivated the intelligence displays and granted permission. Marcus entered, carrying a small wooden box similar to the one he had presented during their wedding ceremony. "I hope I'm not disturbing you," he said with his characteristic friendly manner. "I wanted to share something with you, if you have time." "Of course," Zara replied, gesturing for him to join her at the seating area near the large viewing window. "What do you have there?" Marcus set the box on the table between them and opened it carefully. Inside, nestled in soft fabric, was what appeared to be a simple metal sphere about the size of Zara's fist. "This is something we humans have been working on for quite some time," Marcus explained. "A gift for you, and perhaps a demonstration of what our people might contribute to this alliance." Zara examined the sphere without touching it. From the outside, it appeared to be made of some unknown metal alloy with an unusually complex crystalline structure. Faint energy patterns seemed to flow beneath its surface, suggesting sophisticated internal mechanisms. "What does it do?" she asked. "Watch," Marcus said, and pressed a nearly invisible control on the sphere's surface. The device activated with A soft hum, and suddenly the air around them filled with a three-dimensional display unlike anything in Viridian technology. Instead of the hard light holograms used by the Empire, this projection seemed to be made of actual matter, creating solid objects that Zara could touch and manipulate. The display showed a detailed map of the local galaxy, but with information that made Zara's breathing apparatus stutter in shock. Trade routes were marked with mathematical precision. Resource deposits were cataloged with accuracy that suggested direct survey data. Most disturbing of all, military installations and fleet positions were noted with details that should have been classified at the highest levels of Imperial security. "This is impressive," Zara said carefully, trying to hide her shock. "How did your people gather such detailed information?" "We've been observing and learning for quite some time," Marcus replied. His tone remained friendly, but Zara detected something new underneath it. A hint of steel that had not been there before. Humans are good at watching and listening when people don't think we're important enough to notice. The implications hit Zara like a physical blow. The primitive world her father had planned to exploit had been conducting surveillance operations against the Viridian Empire. The marriage was not a political arrangement between unequal powers. It was a negotiation between civilizations that had been secretly studying each other for years. "How long have you been watching us?" she asked. "Long enough," Marcus said. "Long enough to understand that the Viridian Empire is not the invincible force it appears to be. Long enough to identify your weaknesses as well as your strengths. Long enough to prepare for the day when we would need to defend ourselves." The friendly mask was slipping away, revealing someone far more dangerous than the simple government representative she had married. This was not a primitive human overwhelmed by advanced technology. This was a strategic mind that had been analyzing Imperial capabilities and planning countermeasures. "And what did you discover during this observation?" Zara asked, surprised by her own calmness. Perhaps she had inherited more of her father's diplomatic instincts than she had realized. Marcus manipulated the display, zooming in on specific regions of space. "We discovered that the Viridian Empire has expanded very rapidly, perhaps too rapidly. Your supply lines are stretched thin across multiple fronts. Your military is powerful but concentrated in key systems, leaving gaps in your defensive perimeter. Most importantly, we discovered that your quantum communication networks have a critical vulnerability." He touched another control, and the display showed the Empire's communication infrastructure in detail. That should have been impossible for outsiders to obtain. "The quantum entanglement matrices that allow instant communication across your empire rely on synchronized crystalline resonance patterns," Marcus continued. "Disrupt the synchronization and the entire network collapses?" "Without instantaneous coordination, your scattered fleets become isolated and vulnerable." Zara felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's atmospheric controls. He was describing the Empire's most closely guarded secrets with the casual confidence of someone who had spent years studying them. "Are you threatening the Empire?" she asked. "No," Marcus said, and his expression softened slightly. "I'm explaining why this marriage represents a genuine alliance rather than exploitation. Humanity is not the primitive species your people assumed. We've been developing our own technologies. In secret, learning from observation of more advanced civilizations, preparing for the day when we would need to defend ourselves against conquest." He gestured at the sphere. "This device represents a synthesis of human innovation and borrowed concepts from dozens of alien technologies. We've been trading and learning from species across this region of the galaxy, building relationships your empire never knew existed." "Why reveal this to me?" Zara asked. "Why not maintain the deception?" Marcus was quiet for a moment, and when he spoke, his voice carried a sincerity that Zara found unexpectedly moving. "Because I think this marriage could be something more than a strategic arrangement," he said. "Because I've been watching you over the past few days, and I believe you're someone who values honesty and intelligence over diplomatic games. Because I hope that two people from different worlds might be able to build something better than their governments originally planned." Zara looked at the impossible display floating in the air around them. showing military secrets and technological capabilities that changed everything about the balance of power in this region of space. Then she looked at the man who had just revealed that he represented a civilization far more advanced and dangerous than anyone in the Viridian Empire suspected. "You realize," she said slowly, "that this information changes everything. If I report what you've shown me to my father, then the Empire will have to decide whether it wants Earth as an enemy or as an ally," Marcus finished. "Both of our peoples are strong enough to hurt each other badly. The question is whether we're wise enough to choose cooperation instead." Zara made a decision that would have shocked her younger self. Instead of feeling threatened or deceived, she found herself impressed. Her husband had revealed himself to be exactly the sort of person she had always hoped to meet: intelligent, strategic, honest when honesty mattered, and brave enough to take calculated risks. "Show me more," she said. "Show me what humanity is really capable of." Marcus smiled, and for the first time since their marriage, it was completely genuine. "I was hoping you would say that," he said, reaching for another control on the mysterious sphere. "There's quite a lot more to show you." Over the following week, Marcus revealed the true scope of human achievements in a series of private sessions that left Zara questioning everything she thought she knew about the galaxy. Each demonstration was more impressive than the last. Painting a picture of a species that had not only achieved technological parity with the Viridian Empire, but had surpassed it in several critical areas. The sphere Marcus had shown her was just the beginning. Humans had developed matter manipulation technology that could create complex structures from raw energy. They had mastered dimensional folding techniques that made their ships effectively undetectable when they chose to hide. Most remarkably, they had learned to integrate biological and technological systems in ways that allowed for capabilities neither could achieve alone. "We call it synthetic evolution," Marcus explained during one of their sessions. "Instead of developing technology separately from biology, we learn to merge them. Every human now carries microscopic technological enhancements that improve our cognitive abilities, physical capabilities, and lifespan." To demonstrate, Marcus placed his hand on one of the ship's quantum computing interfaces. Instead of using the external controls, he seemed to connect directly with the system, accessing data streams and processing information at speeds that rivaled Viridian computer systems. "Your people enhance yourselves with external technology," he said, his eyes glowing faintly as data flowed through his neural interfaces. "We chose to make the technology part of ourselves. It's more efficient and much harder to detect or disable." Zara watched in fascination as Marcus interfaced with systems that should have been completely alien to him. "How long have your people been able to do this?" "The basic technology was developed about 50 Earth years ago," Marcus replied, disconnecting from the interface. "We've been refining it ever since, learning from every species we've encountered. The galaxy is full of civilizations with interesting approaches to the merger of biology and technology." "And the Viridian Empire never detected any of this?" Marcus smiled, and Zara was beginning to recognize the expression as one he wore when he was particularly pleased with human cleverness. "Your people were looking for technological signatures similar to your own," he explained. "Large ships, quantum crystalline power sources, hard-light holographic systems. You were scanning for civilizations that developed along similar paths to yours. Humans took a different approach." He activated another function of the mysterious sphere, and the air around them filled with images of human settlements throughout the galaxy. Not the few colonies in Earth's solar system that Viridian intelligence had catalogued, but hundreds of installations scattered across dozens of star systems. "We don't build massive ships or orbital platforms that announce our presence," Marcus continued. "We hide our settlements inside asteroids, on the dark sides of moons, in the debris fields of dead systems. We use biological technology that doesn't emit the energy signatures your sensors are designed to detect. We've been expanding quietly while everyone else was watching for obvious signs of technological advancement." Zara studied the images with growing amazement. The human settlements were masterpieces of concealed engineering, virtually invisible unless you knew exactly what to look for. Some appeared to be nothing more than natural rock formations until sophisticated scans revealed the thriving communities hidden within. "This is why you weren't afraid during the marriage ceremony," she realized. "You weren't overawed by Viridian technology because you already had better alternatives." "Not better," Marcus corrected. "Different. Your crystalline quantum matrices are incredibly elegant solutions to energy manipulation problems. Our biological approaches are more subtle, but less powerful in direct applications. Each approach has advantages and disadvantages. But together," Zara began, "together they could create technologies neither of our species could develop alone," Marcus finished. "That's what this alliance could really accomplish if our peoples choose cooperation over conflict." That evening, Zara found herself facing the most difficult decision of her life. She had enough information to completely change the balance of power between the Viridian Empire and humanity. The question was what to do with that knowledge. She could report everything to her father immediately. Emperor Valdris would undoubtedly view humanity's concealed capabilities as a threat requiring immediate military response. The Empire had dealt with potential rivals before by striking first and negotiating from a position of overwhelming force, but Marcus had trusted her with secrets that could destroy his people if revealed at the wrong time or to the wrong individuals. That trust meant something to her, more than she had expected when this arrangement began. More importantly, she was beginning to understand that the choice was not between exploitation and alliance. It was between alliance and mutual destruction. Humanity was not a primitive world that could be easily conquered. They were a hidden power that had been preparing for exactly the sort of conflict her father might choose to initiate. As she wrestled with her decision, Marcus appeared at her chamber door carrying what appeared to be a simple meal from the ship's kitchens. "I thought you might be hungry," he said. "You seem distracted today." "I have a lot to think about," Zara replied, accepting the offered food gratefully. She had indeed forgotten to eat while contemplating the implications of everything she had learned. "I imagine you do," Marcus said, settling into the chair across from her. "I've given you enough information to start a war or prevent one. That's a heavy responsibility." "Why did you trust me with it?" Zara asked. "How did you know I wouldn't immediately report everything to my father?" Marcus considered the question carefully before answering. "Because you've been conducting your own investigation into my identity for the past week, and you haven't reported your suspicions yet. Because you could have had me arrested or executed the moment you confirmed I wasn't what I appeared to be, but instead you chose to learn more. Because you asked intelligent questions and listened to the answers, instead of just looking for confirmation of what you already believed." Zara realized she had been more transparent in her deception than she had thought. "You knew I was investigating." "You?" "I knew someone was accessing Imperial intelligence networks with queries about my background," Marcus replied. "The search patterns were too sophisticated to be random, and the access codes traced back to someone with very high security clearance. It wasn't hard to figure out who was asking questions. And you revealed your secrets anyway?" "I took a calculated risk," Marcus said. "I believed that someone intelligent enough to detect inconsistencies in my cover story might also be wise enough to see the bigger picture about what our peoples could accomplish together." They sat in comfortable silence for several minutes, both understanding that they had reached a crucial turning point. The pretenses were gone, the deceptions revealed, the true stakes made clear. Now they had to decide what to build with the truth they shared. "Marcus," Zara said finally, "there's something you should know. I've been thinking about reporting our conversations to my father, but I've also been thinking about what would happen if I did." "And what did you conclude?" "That Emperor Valdris would interpret humanity's hidden capabilities as a threat requiring immediate action. He would likely order preemptive strikes against your known colonies, while preparing for full-scale war against an enemy he doesn't yet understand." Marcus nodded gravely. "That assessment matches our own analysis of probable Viridian responses to the truth. But I've also concluded that such a war would be devastating for both our peoples, regardless of who eventually won," Zara continued. "The galaxy is large enough for multiple advanced civilizations to coexist and prosper. I was hoping you would see it that way, Marcus said quietly. So I have a proposal, Zara said, surprising herself with her decisiveness. Instead of revealing everything at once, we work together to gradually introduce the idea of human capabilities to the Empire. We present it as an opportunity for technological exchange rather than a threat to imperial supremacy. We give both sides time to adjust to the new reality instead of forcing immediate confrontation. Marcus leaned back in his chair, studying her with an expression she couldn't quite read. That, he said finally, is exactly what I was hoping you would suggest. In fact, it's very similar to a plan my people developed before I came here. We were just waiting to see if we could find someone in the imperial hierarchy who was willing to work with us instead of against us. Zara felt a mixture of relief and excitement. For the first time since their marriage, she felt like they were working towards something greater than either of their individual missions. So we're really going to do this? She asked. We're going to try to reshape the relationship between our civilizations? We're going to try, Marcus agreed. It won't be easy, and there's no guarantee we'll succeed. But I think it's worth the effort. As Zara looked at her husband, she realized that somewhere during the past week, the political arrangement she had dreaded had become something she genuinely valued. Marcus represented not just an ally for her people, but a partner she could respect and trust. The game they had been playing was over. Now the real work could begin. 6 months later, Zara stood before the Galactic Council as humanity was formally recognized as an equal member of the interstellar community. The journey from hidden species to acknowledged power had been carefully orchestrated, with revelations timed to prevent panic while demonstrating capabilities that demanded respect. The transformation had not been without challenges. Emperor Valdris had initially been furious when Zara and Marcus presented their gradual revelation plan, viewing it as a betrayal of imperial interests. However, when human representatives began sharing selected technologies that enhanced Viridian capabilities rather than threatening them, his attitude had slowly shifted from hostility to cautious appreciation. The breakthrough had come when human biotechnology helped solve a plague affecting several imperial worlds. Traditional Viridian medicine had been unable to develop effective treatments, but human bio-integrated systems adapted to the alien pathogen within days and produced a cure that saved millions of lives. Today, Zara said, addressing the assembled representatives of 47 different civilizations, we witnessed the beginning of a new era of cooperation. The addition of humanity to our galactic community brings not just another member, but new perspectives on how different species can work together to solve challenges none of us could face alone. In the audience, she could see Marcus wearing the ceremonial robes of Earth's official ambassador. The simple government representative had been revealed to be one of humanity's most skilled diplomats, chosen specifically for his ability to navigate complex political situations, while maintaining the trust of potential allies. Over the past months, their personal relationship had deepened alongside their professional collaboration. What had begun as a political marriage had evolved into a genuine partnership, both personally and diplomatically. They had learned to appreciate each other's strengths and compensate for each other's limitations, in ways that made them more effective together than either could be alone. The integration of Viridian crystalline technology with human biological systems has already produced advances in medical treatment, energy efficiency, and communication systems, Zara continued. These achievements demonstrate what becomes possible when different approaches to problem solving are combined rather than competing. The demonstrations that followed showcased the fruits of their cooperation. Hybrid technologies that merged the best aspects of both civilizations' approaches to science and engineering. Medical systems that combined Viridian precision with human adaptability. Communication networks that use crystalline quantum matrices enhanced by biological processing nodes. But perhaps the most impressive demonstration was the one Zara and Marcus conducted together. Using their personal neural interfaces, enhanced by Viridian quantum computing systems, they created a real-time translation and cultural interpretation network that allowed instant communication between any species present. This is what we can accomplish when we choose cooperation over conquest, Marcus said. His words automatically translated and culturally adapted for every being in the chamber. When we share knowledge instead of hoarding it. When we recognize that diversity of thought and approach makes us all stronger. The response was overwhelmingly positive. Species after species stood to formally welcome humanity to the galactic community and express interest in technological exchanges. Several civilizations that had been wary of Viridian expansion voiced enthusiasm for the new cooperative approach that human inclusion represented after the ceremonies concluded. Zara and Marcus found themselves alone on the observation deck of the council station, looking out at stars that no longer seemed distant and threatening, but full of possibilities for exploration and cooperation. "Did you ever imagine it would work this well?" Zara asked, leaning against Marcus as they watched ships from dozens of different worlds dock at the massive station. "Honestly, I hoped, but I wasn't sure," Marcus replied, wrapping his arms around her. "There were so many points where everything could have gone wrong. If you had chosen to report my true identity immediately, if your father had decided to see humanity as a threat instead of an opportunity, if any of the other council species had viewed our cooperation as a challenge to the existing order, but none of that happened," Zara pointed out. "We chose trust over fear, cooperation over conflict, and it worked." "This time," Marcus said. "There will be other challenges, other species that need to be convinced that cooperation is better than competition. Not every first contact will go as smoothly as ours did." Zara turned in his arms to face him directly. "Then we'll face those challenges together. You've shown me that the galaxy is much larger and more complex than I ever imagined. I want to help explore it and help other species find ways to work together like we have." Marcus smiled, the same genuine expression she had learned to recognize and appreciate over the past months. "Together sounds perfect." Their personal communication devices chimed simultaneously with an incoming message marked as high priority. The message was brief but exciting. A previously unknown civilization had been detected in a distant star system, one that appeared to have developed technologies unlike anything previously encountered. "Another first contact situation," Zara observed. "Another chance to choose cooperation over conquest. Another chance to prove that different approaches to science and culture can create something better than either could achieve alone." Marcus agreed. "Are you ready for our next mission?" Zara looked out at the stars, thinking about the vast galaxy full of civilizations yet to be discovered, technologies yet to be combined, and challenges yet to be overcome through cooperation. 6 months ago, she had been a sheltered princess preparing for a political marriage to a primitive alien. Now she was half of a diplomatic team that had helped reshape interstellar politics. "I'm ready," she said. "Let's go find out what new wonders await us." As their ship departed the council station bound for unknown space, Zara reflected on how much her life had changed since that first day when she had thought her husband was simple. She had learned that appearances could be deceptive, that intelligence came in many forms, and that the most rewarding partnerships were built on mutual respect and shared goals. Most importantly, she had learned that the universe was full of possibilities for those brave enough to look beyond their assumptions and whys, enough to choose cooperation over conflict. The marriage that had begun as a political arrangement between unequal powers had become a personal alliance that was helping to reshape the galaxy. And they were just getting started. In the depths of space, new civilizations waited to be discovered, new technologies waited to be developed, and new partnerships waited to be forged. For the first time in her life, Princess Zara of the Viridian Empire looked toward the future with excitement rather than duty, knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, she would face them with a partner who complemented her strengths and shared her vision of what the galaxy could become. The stars had never looked more beautiful or more full of promise.